Okay, I've taken these problems from 8.7 homework because it's a pretty tough section and some people need some help with them. So the first one is to complete the square, and so that you can write it in the form, this quadratic equation in this form here. Well, I first wanted, before we start this problem, I want to go over here to this example of equality. So I've written here a true equation, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now if for some reason I wanted to add a number to this equation, let's say I wanted to add a 3. It's not true anymore unless I account for that somehow. There's two ways I can account for that. If there's two sides of the equal sign, I can add the same number to the other side of the equal sign and it's still now true. That's one way I can keep an equation true. Another way though, if I don't have two sides of the equal sign that I want to work with, if I just want to work with one side of the equal sign, if I add a 3 to this left side, I can account for that by subtracting a 3 from that same side of the equal sign, and now it is still a true equation. So I'm going to use this as I complete the square. So the first step in completing the square is that your first leading coefficient needs to be a 1. So it's not right now. That means I need to factor out a 2 here. So I'm going to factor it out just from the first two terms. And I'm going to leave the minus 3 outside because 2 won't go into 3. I'm not going to factor a 2 out of 3. But you can see that it is factored out because if you distribute it back through, you'll get back your 2x squared plus 4x. Now with completing the square, what you do is you take your middle term here. Once your leading coefficient of the x squared is a 1, you can take your second term here, your second coefficient 2, divide it by 2, and then square that number. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. So I added a 1 here. But I didn't actually add a 1. Because it's inside this parentheses, it's actually being multiplied by this 2. So it's actually a 2 times 1, which is a 2. And if you can see, this is all on one side of the parentheses. This is all on one side of the equal sign. So since I want to accommodate for this adding of a 2, I want to keep this equation equal, I need to subtract 2 so that I can keep this equation equal. Now the reason why we complete the square, why we do this little trick here, is because now this parentheses, 1x squared plus 2x plus 1, it will be able to factor exactly into two sets of identical factors. So x plus 1 times x plus 1. You can check that by FOILing this out and you will get back 1x squared plus 2x plus 1. So now I have the 2 outside here. I have minus 3 minus 2 is minus 5. These two can actually be written just once though, because it's a factor multiplied by itself. I can just write it once with a little square out to the side, and so now it's in the right form that we wanted. So if we were typing this into the computer for our answer key, we'd have x minus negative 1 here, since minusing a negative is the same thing as adding 1, and we'd have plus negative 5. Okay, the second one is to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. A vertex of a parabola, because all quadratic equations, their graphs are going to look like parabolas. The parabola could be turned upside down or right side up. The vertex is this point where it changes directions. So since the vertex is a point, it has an ordered pair. And every ordered pair has two coordinates, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So right here, if you can tell here, this is a parentheses. To find your x coordinate, you're going to follow this formula, negative b over 2 times a. And that's when your equation is in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So I've written down here what my a, b, and c are. So to find the x coordinate of my vertex, I'm going to take negative b. Since b is 8, it'll be negative 8 over 2 times a. A is negative 1. That's just my x coordinate for my vertex. Remember, I need two coordinates for my vertex since it's an ordered pair. But negative 8 over negative 2 will be positive 4. Now that's my x coordinate. If I want to find my y coordinate, I'm going to plug my x value back in to the equation in all the x spots and solve for y. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to take negative x squared plus 8 times x plus c, which is 6 here. So let's solve this out. I know 8 times 4 is 32. 4 squared is 16, so I have negative 16 plus 32 plus 6. So we have 16 plus 6, so we have 22 as our y-coordinate. That would be the vertex. The axis of symmetry, an axis is a line, and it's just gonna go straight through with the x-coordinate. So I only have 17 seconds left. To find the x-intercepts and y-intercepts of this, you can pause this and watch my work. X-intercepts, you plug a 0 in for y, and y-intercepts, you plug a 0 in for x. With the x-intercepts, I had to use the quadratic equation since this part wouldn't factor.